So what I did is I advertised for testing on Google AdWords with my last 700. We worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We employed lots and lots of, like hundreds of staff in-house. It was crazy. It was sleepless. It was huge. The project started a manufacturing business.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Quiet Work podcast. Today, I'm bringing in a guest all the way from England, area
Hello.
around Birmingham. If you're familiar with the show Peaky Blinders, we just spoke about that. That's where Matt, with this beautiful name, resides. And I'm curious to hear his entrepreneurial story, what made him what led him to the AI world, starting his own AI startup. We're going to cover all of that. Without any further ado, Matt, please introduce yourself and the company you represent, and we'll start a conversation with it.
Well, thank you very much to begin with, Matt, for inviting me on the show. It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you. So, yeah, I'm Matt Faizey. As Matt has already said, I'm from Birmingham, England. And yeah, we're bringing out this new product, this new AI product. I won't labor that too much because that's only a tiny bit of what I've been doing for the last 25 years. But yeah, we've got this new product. It's a marketing suite, if you like, in your pocket. So it's very much, the idea is that lead generation, nobody wants to go like the old days onto Google, find companies, write a message to them, massive hassle. So we've got that covered. That's one part of it. That's called Loop Gen. We have another part which is called Loop Social. Again, I'm new to LinkedIn, got to be honest. So writing those messages every day, they are from me. But from a business point of view, when you have to write a business post every day, we take that away from people. It does it automatically for you. Generates images, does the videos, etc. So that's pretty cool. And the last thing really as part of the suite of products is something called Loop Reach. Now, I've used Google Ads in the past, and it can be quite, a time consuming to learn all about it. Well, what this does is it takes it out your hands. It does everything for you, because what it does is the product, LoopSuite, the whole product knows about what you do as a company just by putting in your website, your URL. So it does all the research and then does your social media, does your ads, and it does all of your lead generation all in one. So it's just literally come out in the last couple of weeks. I've been testing it on my own businesses and it's doing all right. It's doing okay. I think I've had 15 leads in the last 3 weeks.
That's incredible.
So yeah, there's the salesy bit now. Sorry, you don't have to put your credit card in. You get 30 days free, etc., etc. So yeah, that's it for the product. Really, there's nothing. Unless you want to talk about it more, I'm happy to talk about it. But yeah,
we'll get to this. We'll get to this for sure. I mean, you've mentioned you had 20 or 25 years of history behind you, so I would love to learn more about how it started. And by the way, I mean, when I first encountered you on LinkedIn, the conversation clicked right away, and I just wanted to learn more about what you do. So I went to your website, which is the LoopSuite website, and I clicked a few things, logged in, didn't have much thought about it, but then I saw it working. It started to work, started to analyze, and every outcome that came afterwards was pretty good. And it got me hooked. I was like, that there might be something. And I know there's a huge time difference, so I messaged you probably at weird times. It was usually like 4 a.m. for you or something, and you still responded.
For me. Just waking up then.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to exploring it more. Just like you said, it's a brand new tool and suite for businesses, suite or hub for businesses. So I'm looking forward to discovering more. But tell us more about your story, Matt. And first time we connected, you were in a beautiful town where probably a writer comes from that probably everyone knows around the world. So tell us about your story, how it all started. How did you get into running businesses or growing businesses? Where did it all begin?
Okay. Well, many, many years ago, like a lot of perhaps entrepreneurs, they get the sack.
Once upon a time,
perhaps I was always destined to have my own business but yeah, I got the sack a few times. Let's be honest, it's not great, but you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off and you go, what can I do? So the last time I got the sack actually was I was working for a book a big yellow book called Yellow Pages. I don't know whether you go back that
Yeah,
far, Matt,
I do.
but yeah. Well, I'd never quite reached the dizzying heights of selling the book. I was selling Yale.com, which was like
Mm,
if you remember, the directory, which was online.
yes.
So I just kind of got the sack from a previous job, went to Yellow Pages, worked as a temp, had to really prove what I could do. So it's cold calling every day, 100 calls a day, 3 hours of talk time, 2 sales, and there's no
Wow.
contracts. If you don't do it, that's it. So I kind of cut my teeth, learning the ropes, ringing people up, you name it, all the different classifications. They chuck you in at the deep end day one. They ask you to ring farmers. Trying to sell to a farmer is difficult. So
I can
that's kind of,
imagine.
they weed out the people that can't take it day one. So I did that. I did that for a few years. And what I got from that was like you, Matt. You get to speak to. You've done 70 or so podcasts. You get to speak to a lot of founders. Well, imagine trying to speak to like 100 different people. They're business owners every day, picking the
Yeah.
phone up, trying to talk to them. And the thing is, with sales, you've got to find a need. So without finding a need, you can't really sell to them. So essentially, you're talking to them, and then you're working out how can this product actually help that customer. And after 20 minutes or so, you begin to pick up, actually, we could help you. So but you get to speak to lots of different types of companies and people, obviously. And from that, the idea was, what could I do myself from,
Mm.
what works for me? What could I do? Well, I'm not trained. I can't be a plumber or electrician. I don't have those skills. So I thought, what could I do? One day I picked up the phone and I rang a marquee hire company, like these big tents. And they went, no, we're too busy. We're flat out in the summer. So I thought, well, if you're that busy, surely there's space for someone like me, someone, that doesn't know anything about marquees. So that's what I thought. But then I looked into it a little bit more and I realized actually I need to quit my day job to do that. My Monday to Friday,
Mm.
I need to quit it and I need to get staff and I don't know where to start. And I wasn't prepared to take that risk at that point. So I was like, what can I do? So I thought, I'll get some of these little bouncy castles. I don't know whether you have the jumping castles, the inflatable things that you have at children's
Oh
parks.
yeah, we have. I see them here in Poland. It was unheard of to have one for your private party, but here in the United States, you see that at a lot of parties.
Yeah. So I did that. I bought my first bouncy castle, £500 on eBay. Bought the wrong type, but it didn't matter at the time. I'd got my bouncy castle. I got my advert about to come out in Yellow Pages in July,
Very nice.
right? Because it was summertime in Birmingham. And then all of a sudden, my one little bouncy castle was busy. It was hiring it. And I bought 3 more that season. And I was like, I'm earning more from a weekend than I'm doing in my normal day job, which is fantastic. So
Absolutely.
very, very simple. It was I look back now and know it's not a scalable business.
Mm.
Bouncy Castle is not a scalable business. But what it allowed me to do was grow that business from one bouncy castle to like 20 bouncy castles over the course of a few years. I'd buy some more, I'd buy, 3 more the following year, I'd buy 3 more the following year. And that was in 2003. So then it got to 2005. And my idea was still in the back of my head about marquees. And I went into someone's garden and they've got this like gazebo thing and it was about £200 to hire it. And my bouncy castles are like £45. So I'm like, well, why can't I just do 10 of those gazebos instead of 10 of these, let's say? So that's when I began to think, let's do these marquees. Let's come back to the original idea.
Mm.
And that's what I did. 2005, I got my website, I got my research. And then in 2006, I did my first marquee in someone's back garden. It felt massive. In reality, a 20 foot by 20 foot is tiny. So, but it felt huge. It was a big step. I quit my day job. I quit Yellow Pages or I got the sack. I don't know which. Uh, but either way, I was going for it. So I started my marquee company 2006.
Mm.
Same principle, grew it, bought new stock, chairs, dance floors, private parties, that type of thing. And every year, well, actually, I had to remortgage my home to begin with because you can't just come up with $100,000, just from nowhere. So I
Yeah.
remortgaged my house, got my vehicle, got my trailer, got my equipment, never put a marquee up before. and then
That's
just went for
insane.
it. Yeah, got the manufacturer to come up and show me how it was put up. So then the first year, learning how to do it, building these structures, just like I did with the castles. And then in 2013, we went to, I was thinking, I need more equipment. It's summer. It's really busy. You ring up all the local manufacturers. They're on the continent, Germany mainly, very few
Mm.
in the UK, and nobody got any stock. So what did I do? I thought, well, actually, why don't we start a manufacturing business supplying
Oh,
companies across the UK, really? So that's what I did. Started a manufacturing business. Now, the marquee structures are made up of your roofs, your PVC roofs, all your aluminium, your legs, your beams, etc., and all the fancy linings inside. So really what we needed to create was, if you like, three separate parts to our manufacturing business. And we did that over time with the frame, with the PVC, and then the linings later on. And that coasted on 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18. We were growing, hire company growing, manufacturing company growing, and everything was going brilliant. And then COVID, yeah,
no way.
COVID comes along and it's like, ah,
Ah,
or like every business, I'm sure it was affected in many different ways. All the jobs were cancelling. At the end of the day, no one wants a party or a wedding during the lockdown, what we had over here. So it was actually January 2020, sorry,
yeah.
that I could see what was happening abroad and I could see what could happen in the UK. And and I got this feeling, obviously, that things were could be bad. And things were bad. We just moved to a new factory site. We just
Mm,
had a loan, everything was looking great, but then all of a sudden, not so great. Fortunately, we had to obviously at that point let go of staff. March 2020, we'd done everything. We'd wrote to all the politicians. We'd done everything you can think of to try and tell people what we could do. What I wanted to do at the time was actually COVID work. Now, at the time, there was this, I could see in America and the Far East, there was talk of COVID testing stations. I could see
mm,
people going in for tests. So that's what I got. I got the idea of these COVID testing stations. So what I did is I advertised for COVID testing on Google AdWords with my last 700. So I got the design and everything was my last few employees, placed it all on red and it come up red. Yeah, it was,
no way.
yeah. So somebody from one of the world's largest hire companies contacted me and said, we've seen what you do on your website. Can you please come tomorrow and deliver your design in London? We want you to do 3 sites and it's going to be inspected and tested and passed off. So I'm like, yeah, no problem, we'll come. So we did the first 3 sites in late March 2020. They were made up of 4 or 5 structures per site. So yeah, delivered those. Fingers crossed. We're hoping that, I mean, my expectations were truthfully that this thing was going to be gone after 12 weeks. I
Yeah.
priced it up on 12 weeks, really. It's like, we'll be going back in 12 weeks and taking them down. Well, it was approved, it was passed. And then the next day they were going, now we need another 7 structures in Glasgow. We need another 7 structures in Belfast, in Plymouth. Now, to you guys in the States, these distances are probably quite small. But for us in this little island, traveling 6, 7, 8 hours is a long way. We'd never gone from Birmingham to Glasgow before, let's say. So what we had to actually do was outsource a lot of it to begin with, Matt. We had to
Mm,
ring up marquee companies and go, will you come and join our network? Because we cannot deliver 30 structures a day
mm,
across the United Kingdom. So we created a network of companies so we could pick the phone up and go, right, we might have a site in Exeter or Kent, wherever it might be. So we got this network of companies. We could supply some of the equipment, but it was actually the erecting side of things that proved difficult because you need 30 or 40 people every day minimum just to go and deliver. And that was at the beginning. And they were ramping it up, ramping it up. And as a manufacturing company, this is where the manufacturing really helped for us. Because we were a manufacturer, we were able to supply all the components to our own in-house teams, as well as our network of companies. to ensure that we never let our customer down once in the
Mm,
delivery of all these sites. So it was a huge task. So in the first wave of sites, we did 75 sites, which were regional sites. They had anything from 7 to 20 structures per site, hundreds and hundreds of structures went out all over the country, furniture, tables for the testing, all that all went out. So we were like, I mean, it was beyond my expectations. I don't think anybody has ever done hundreds and hundreds of structures in such a short space of time over those months, really. It was amazing.
that's insane.
Yeah. And they were all on hire. They all went out on hire, which was so every week. Normally we go out, we put it up, we take it down a week later. But all we were doing for month after month was putting these structures up.
Yeah.
And then come towards the end of the summer, when we'd done 75 sites, the current health secretary wanted to have 1 million tests per day. That's what his goal was, 1 million COVID tests per day. So it didn't just stop with the regional sites. It then went on to smaller.
Mm,
So yeah, small inner city sites where people couldn't drive, small sites. We did hundreds of those, hundreds and hundreds of those all up and down the country. And that was every time you think you're finished, they're like,
okay.
okay, right. What we want you to do now is do this. But because they were all set up in such a rush, there were all this, the flappy PVC sites, like the stuff that isn't brilliant in the winter. So what they wanted, our customer, was hard-sided, insulated structures with
Mm,
doors, glass doors. You can imagine you've got an in and an out, and you've got
yeah.
4 sets of doors. It's a fully insulated structure. So what we needed to then do was, once we'd finished all the installations, like a year later, was to go back and fit all the solid sides, all the
Mm,
doors. Now that meant literally like a $2 million worth of solid sides just to purchase. I think they probably come from Poland, to be perfectly honest, Matt. You know,
probably.
lorry after lorry after lorry into our place. But because the COVID testing sites were 8 a.m. till 8 p.m., we had to go out 8 p.m. onwards and ready for the next morning. And we had to do dozens and dozens of sites every single day. Trophic them, we called it. We give our companies, our network, specification, and it was quite precise what needed to be done. So really, what we needed to do as well was massively scale up our manufacturing to be able to deliver the COVID sites. I mean, in the first month or so in April 2020, we did only 30% of the sites ourselves in-house hire. But by the August 2020, we're delivering 90% because we really ramped up our manufacturing. We worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We employed lots and lots of, like, hundreds of staff in-house, you know, contractor, pliers outside coming in. It was crazy. It was sleepless. It was huge, the project.
Mm,
So one of the hardest things was actually delivering the doors. So we got a set of doors, glass either side, making those, assembling those, then those 4 sets of doors per site, or 10 sets of doors per site, going out every day. We had to manufacture 40 sets of doors and windows every day. We ramped up to that, and we had to install it because we got deadlines. So that was
wow.
incredibly stressful, really. That was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But we did it. It was a huge challenge, from where we'd gone from letting go a lot of staff at the beginning of COVID to, right, everyone back in quick. And I've got 5 sons. So
Whoa.
yeah, over the years, 5 boys.
Congrats.
And of weekends, of evenings, these guys coming in. Now, if anyone's watching, I am a responsible parent. Turned out okay, don't worry. But yeah, they come in.
When I started working with my late dad when I was 14. So we did some, in the beginning it was demolition, and then a little bit of demolition, and then moving company. So sometimes we had to pretty much demolish what was in the apartment. I don't know about UK, but in Germany, if you leave the apartment that you rent from the government or from the city, whatever, you have to tear down even the floors.
Oh,
Sometimes if you
right.
put the floors in, they demolish the kitchens even.
Mm.
when I had to clean up my dad's apartment after he was gone, we had to tear down everything in the apartment, including he had like art on the walls, but the entire wall was covered with this, stones, whatever. I had to tear it all down, floors
Right.
and the kitchen, which was crazy. So
And
that's what I did. But I love the dynamic.
did your dad pay you minimum wage? Did he pay you? I take it.
In the big, yeah, I would definitely minimum wage. I mean, in the
Yeah.
beginning, I was just
The
doing it
minimum
for
wage
fun.
for a 14-year-old,
Yeah.
not an adult's minimum wage. They gotta learn the value of money. You know,
Oh
I
yeah.
give my sons the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. I don't know if you're
There you go.
familiar with that. So read that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, you know,
absolutely. No, it was always every time I joined a family business, always from the bottom, and I definitely learned what the value of a euro, dollar, not a pound yet, but of the value of money is 100,000%. I mean, was a grind and physical work as well, which I didn't mind because I wanted to get stronger and build strength for life. As my dad would tell me, the gym can give you muscles, but if you want strength for life, you need to work.
well, exactly. You know, I think I worked with my dad for a time, really, many years ago. It was actually 5 generations of printers. Yeah, that's on my
Wow.
dad's side in the printing industry. But who needs printing anymore when you can send an email or, people don't spend it anymore.
I had one guest who is still in the printing business and, well, maybe not really printing, but paper business. So he provides printing companies as well, but they do printing as well. From what I recall, they have a few manufacturer sites, but they do paper. So still still.
Yeah, still a business there. Yeah, so yeah, got all my sons in, got the girlfriends in, got my friends
Love it.
my friends and my sons in. I mean, as I say, it was completely crazy, but
Yeah.
we survived. And those structures stayed up for 2 years. It was amazing,
Mm.
brilliant. And then our current Prime Minister at the time, Boris Johnson, said the end of free testing is over, which was fair enough. And come and take all your structures down, which took us like a year plus to set them all up. But you got to bear in mind, we then needed to get them down as quickly as possible because all the land was effectively being rented. So,
Mm.
the airport car park and so forth. So then
Yeah.
our mission was to get them down as quickly as possible. And for an agreed sum, we would do it within a 12-week period. And we did it, just about with a week or two spare. Everyone's happy. We were happy. Our customers were happy, and that was it really. So now I've got enough structures to cover the state of Texas. Maybe not quite that many, but we've got a lot of structures. So then what do you do after that? You've got all these structures everywhere. Years
Yeah.
ago you couldn't do a festival because you didn't have enough equipment.
Yeah.
But now we could do most festivals, let's say, quite easily. So yeah, so we ended up going back to doing our events, going back because we're working with some bigger companies now. We got some lovely white, if you like, prestigious jobs. So we've done Queen Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. I know it's a very sad occasion, particularly for us
Whoa.
British people here. But
I
yeah,
know.
we're proud to have done that. Many structures across London for the logistics, for the police and so forth. So yeah, that was one of our proud moments. Multiple other things as well, really. 2023, 2024. So yeah, so that's kind of took us to the point when I hadn't had a heart attack. I've done it, really pleased, everything went well. But then you look around and you think, what should we do next? So we got the marquee business, hire, manufacturing. But then you think, well, actually, can I branch out into other things? Can I invest in other businesses? That's what we did really. So we done very well from that enterprise. The first thing you want to do is kind of, let's say, protect some of your wealth. Buy property. Interest rates are at 1%. Back in
Whoa.
back then, you couldn't get virtually nothing for your money. Inflation was a lot higher than interest rates. So with all
Yeah.
the money that we generated, you got to do something. Yeah, we bought properties, residential, commercial, very straightforward as an income really. So we did that for a few years. Portfolio, not really a startup, shall we say? It's very much passive income. But then I've got another guy who was very, very successful in his business, took his, when he was a director, a company from 5 million to 10 million, and another company from 10 million to 20 million. So I'm like, why aren't you doing this yourself? He's like, well, like everybody, like me, when I started my Bouncy Castles, I didn't want to get off that. I've got, mortgage, kids, etc., etc. Well, what do? You think, well, I can either do it and regret it, or don't do it and regret not doing it.
Great,
So
not doing.
after a bit of pressing, his name's Rob, Shield Preservation, that's what it's called. So after a bit of pressing, he's like, okay, let's do it. Let's go for it. So yeah, so that business was started September 24, booming, really busy, turning over millions and millions. Yeah, fantastic. Doing very,
Wow.
very, yeah, the profit isn't in yet because of the growth. It's growing, supply. You might have a job that's 100 grand, but your suppliers only give you credit of 10, let's say. So all of a
Mm.
sudden cash flow, so that's doing very, very well. It's growing very nicely. I'm very much hands off on that business. That's in very, very safe hands. So yeah, started that business, doing really well. Branched out doing loans to companies. So property loans. We have got a number of customers that, because of the nature of the setup, the way they do it, they don't have a credit history, even though it's successful businesses, because of the nature of what they do. Separate property company, separate trading company with the group structure. We do loans to those businesses with all the securities. That's great. We offer a really good service, very personal service. So yeah, been doing that as well. And then we've been doing, obviously, LoopSuite, but LoopSuite wasn't, weirdly enough, LoopSuite came from something from a different business with my other co-founder, Carl. So we've actually patented some of this, but it's a very smart storage system in the home. We haven't brought this product out because we're like, this product we've currently got now is much better. LoopSuite's much, much better. So what it came from was because we needed this product fitted in people's homes up and down the UK. Carl was like, okay, now I need to find a bathroom fitter. I need to find a carpenter, electrician. So what do? You go on Google, you look for somewhere in Scotland, you make a note of it, you then send an email out and you hope to get a reply. So Carl's like, surely there's a better way of doing this. So he's like, well, how about I automate it? I was like, well, go on then, whatever. I was totally out of that part of it back then. So he comes up with a system, being able to, obviously, which is very much the forerunner of LoopGen in September 24. And it's been that long to develop, really, and as AI has improved, the emails have improved and so forth. Well, yeah, that's how it come along. So we've got this other business which we started, not, yeah, it was our smart storage business. And we're like, this is a brilliant idea, but actually on the back of designing an outreach program, this new LoopSuite could be much, much better. So yeah, that's how it come about, really, that product.
We close the
Yeah.
loop now.
Yeah, we closed the loop. So I think we've gone from my Bouncy Castles right back to where we are today,
What
really.
a what a spectacular story. And Matt just proved, not me, the other Matt, proved that you can have 40 hours a day and
Yeah.
do it all. I mean, spectacular. Back in 2005, you said you built a website. Is that you who built a website? I can imagine back then building a website was not as easy as it is now.
Well, one of the things back then, obviously not social media, but SEO was, to me, quite a new thing. But it became very apparent that it was very, really, really important. And
Mm.
it was important for our initial startup business, because obviously everyone wants to come up for keywords. We all know about that now. Obviously things have changed since then. But so what I effectively done was I used a template website to begin with. It was great. I put all my content on there. I actually learned a lot about marquees just from reading other marquee companies' websites. I spent, obviously, days and days building this thing, copy and pasting, tweaking, all the rest of it. I'm like, oh, that's what you do, is it? That's interesting. So this was in the December 2005. And I created this template website. It was brilliant, perfect, everything I wanted. It didn't look great, but I got the content right. I got the keywords right. And then I just went to a professional company after and went,
I
okay,
see.
I've got that. Yeah. And yeah, the SEO was brilliant. Uh, it really, really helped for my region, Birmingham at the time. Yeah, I was
That's
over the
crazy.
moon.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool that you did it. And there's I like that when I do research on anything, I like to do something similar what you did there, and essentially go to those large corporations or businesses and look up their case studies. So, for example, you had a marketing agency or like large, like Ogilvy, large marketing agency, for example, and you would look up their biggest case studies, and often what they do, they are pretty accurate with those case studies and pretty detailed as well in some cases, or software is doing it in an incredible job, those large software companies, in building those case studies because they use them in their sales cycle. So if you look up what they did and obviously what result it had, you can imagine that this is something that you should be implementing as well into your own marketing or whatever it is, building a website. So that's a great idea. And I mean, you've done it 20 years ago, so
Well,
being
we've done
on the
very,
front.
very well. That we were hit upon something that, as people call it, we had a moat with our manufacturing
Yeah.
business. Nobody was manufacturing really what we was doing. Now, the major upside was for us as a manufacturer when we buy the aluminium, the alloy in, the extrusions in, and then we process it all. The manufacturer's alloys were quiet because no one was making anything. So we could
Yeah.
drop 50 tons and we need 50 tons of aluminium. And they go, brilliant, we'll give it you in 2 weeks. That was fantastic for us. Now, the wait time would be,
Yeah.
and same for steel. It was it was a incredibly hectic time. I was in bed with COVID, but I still needed to make calls from my bedroom,
Yeah.
because we needed to get flooring, we needed to get vinyl, there needed to be like proper clean and everything. But I think what it is, obviously, with LoopSuite, it is completely different. It's a different product in that it's new. The processes people have always had problems with. But I think for me, there's going to be a lot of people out there that, like my sons, let's say, I say we're not reinventing the wheel. We might be doing something different with LoopSuite, but you know, I wasn't a massive risk taker. I never, when I started my marquee business, I wasn't going out trying to reinvent something. I just seen, I knew there was demand. I knew people wanted these services. So to me, it wasn't a great risk to begin
Mm,
with, putting that money in, because at the time I'd still got like £30,000 for $50,000, let's say, coming in from my Bouncy Castle business of weekends. So I knew I'd got that coming in, and that allowed me obviously then to go, well, now we're going to do our marquee business. Now I can quit my day job. So actually, I haven't always taken, like, I don't see it as huge risks really, not reinventing the wheel. And that's paid off really. I don't want to put myself into a position where I can't recover from, like the loans, etc. If one or two default, okay, I've got charges against properties, but if they do, we can still recover from these things. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. I always love to talk to people. I love talking to business owners, talking to them and saying, look, let's hear about what they do and see if we can do these joint ventures and so forth, really, you know, because
that's
that's just it. Anyone can do it, really. I know it sounds a little bit fluffy, but you can, so I'm proof, I think, of that, you know.
absolutely, yes, and a huge inspiration. I mean, it was so good to hear all those stories, and you took us back, and it was perfectly put in chronological order as well, so everyone could follow. I could at least follow, and I'm sure the listeners will be able to follow. If you zoom out, Matt, for a second and look at the last 20 years, what would you say gives you the most fulfillment when it comes to picking up deciding on a project, moving in all in into a project, and then seeing it being successful, and then having to pivot again, and everything you just covered? What would you say gives you the most fulfillment?
Well, I think what has given me the most fulfillment would be the COVID work, really, because I had to keep telling myself on the
Mm,
first few days, right? I said to myself, this is a test. in my head. Can I deal with this test? Can I pass this test? Because there was so much riding on it. If we'd have failed the first day, the second day, the first week, none of this would have been, we'd never have got a second chance. I said the world's largest or one of the world's largest hire companies needed us at the time, but they could have gone elsewhere. They're such a huge company. So really, that's probably the hardest thing, because we've gone from almost losing everything. Because look, I don't know what it's like in the States, but I told you earlier, to start my marquee business off, I bought a couple of properties which I needed to remortgage. Yeah.
Mm.
So I've got a couple of houses which I let out, and that was fantastic. It's great little business, not business, but passive income. But because you've got houses, we wouldn't have got anything. No one was there to support us as a business owner. We would have been like, yeah, you're screwed now. And that's the thing. I knew that. My wife had got an interview. I mean, she looks after 5 boys at home, so you can't go and get a full-time job doing something. But she got an interview for Tesco's, which is like, your Walmart over there.
Yeah,
So
I know that. We have
yeah,
them. We had them in Poland. I don't know if they still there, but we
that's
had
it.
them.
So got the interview on the Saturday. We'd just done our first structures on the Wednesday and the Thursday. I was like, Soph, I'm hoping you don't need to go to that interview. I think, because the boys will have to fend for themselves otherwise, but yeah, that's how we were very, very close to the why, really. So to be able to go from that to be able to build up our manufacturing. But you know what it is, Matt, right? And I look at this, I'm certainly not the brightest. I worked pretty hard. I'd worked hard to build that business up. I worked like a lot of business owners, 6 in the morning, 6 of a night, every day. It was difficult, but having that team around me was the most important thing to be able to
Mm.
achieve what we did in the end. A different collection of people with different strengths. That really helps. I've got one guy who is brilliant at negotiations. He won't take no for an answer. And he doesn't see it. When we had to do one of the sites, which we'd never done an overnight erection before, when we'd had to build one of our sites before overnight, I had to say to the guys, would you mind going to this site, like 10 guys, get there, leave at 8 o'clock in the evening, get there at 12, build them, finish at 4 in the morning, come back. And one of my guys who works for me, Doug, his name is, he's like, Matt, right, if we don't do this, somebody else is going to do it. And that type of person in your corner when you need somebody is, incredibly useful, really. So having that collection of people around you with different, and I'm one of these people, I don't know about you, Matt, but I'm one of these people, I like to get people's opinions. It might be a weakness. You see people on the telly that make these snap decisions and they go, right, that's it. I can't do it like that. I like to get my team and go, right, guys, this is the problem. What are we going to do about it? Get everyone's opinion, get everyone on board. Then we go, okay, this is what we're going to do. And that's what
Mm.
we did throughout that, for all of the processes, when we first started manufacturing, getting people on board, really, the key people that you trust, rely on. And I think that's probably one of the things that has definitely helped me over the years, really, being able to have a good group of people. And of course, if a wife was in earshot, which she isn't, she's running around after the boys, having a wife that to support you has been amazing, because like she was having a bit of a whinge at me today, actually, funnily enough, because, I'm going to go and do the next business. And so my wife's like, look, Matt, come on, can't you just forget about the next one? So she doesn't like taking risks, right? And I'm like somewhere over there, but together we make
Mm.
a great team, actually. And, so having a supportive partner definitely helps, really.
I mean, chapeau bas, hats off to your wife for raising 5 boys. I mean, I can only imagine. We have our first princess, no, not a boy, a girl,
Yeah,
and it's already a lot. We have 2-story place here, condo here, and she's all over the place. She just turned 1, so I can only imagine what it is to have
it
multiple
gets
kids
worse.
and only boys.
It gets worse. Yeah. Too many parties, unfortunately. Yeah.
I know.
So yeah, I won't go into detail about that, but yeah, it's incredibly difficult. But yeah, the great bunch of lads, very supportive wife. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Congrats to her. Absolutely. Hats off to her. Matt, if you had a chance to sit across the table from Matt 20 years ago when he's just starting out, is there a piece of advice that you would leave him with?
Well, actually, one of my mentors, a guy called Jim,
Jim Ron?
like like a lot of these stories, I end up getting the sack. So I got booted out of university. Just wasn't doing enough. Yeah, I never 6 months into a 3-year degree, things
Mm,
didn't work out. So that's when I was 18, 19. Ended up leaving, went to a little supermarket, stacking shelves, doing that sort of stuff, really. And my dad was doing the printing for his company, just started this little insurance company, these little brokers by himself, little shop. And I went to work for him, and he'd been really successful. And he kind of fell on hard times with various stuff that had been going on. But he'd like done all this amazing things that I'd never really thought was possible. Like you get the American dream, obviously, where the guys, anything's possible. And I met this guy, Jim, who told me, well, actually, anything is possible, and, you know, so, so I probably didn't believe it, that it was possible. But I think, the way I see it, like, people do want to be successful, obviously, in life. They want, particularly with the social media side, you see people have got nowadays. And I think really, like my second eldest son, who was a very, very successful elite boxer, one of the best in the country, one of the best cross country runners, amazing as an athlete, you know. But I don't see that as a long term prospect. People invest so much time in their children, sport, oh, they're going to be the greatest sportsman or blah, blah, blah. But actually, having your own business allows you to, once you get your own little business, if you can start something, however small it is, like me with my bouncy castles, I've seen it as like a stepping stone. You can move upwards. So you can start with your bouncy castles, you can start with your marquee, you can start with your manufacturing, then you can branch off from that once you've got a base. So for me, I mean, back then I wanted to start my own insurance brokers. I didn't. Every time I've looked at something, I've wanted to start it, but I never had no one to back me, and no one ever gave me any money, really. Everything was from my own back, really, the savings that I'd generated. So really, I think the advice I'd probably say, really, if you're, a younger person, particularly if you're interested in business, is really, is for me, wasn't, don't reinvent the wheel. Look at something you think is scalable. It doesn't have to be necessarily scalable because you're going to be your first one, but always look ahead what you might be able
mm,
to scale up, and then, yeah, do all your research and do it, because I believe working for somebody else, you'll never really be, you'll never really earn any of the big bucks until you have your own business. And then even when you do, it's really difficult. But for me, I'm obviously a lot older, and I always, in the back of my mind, was when I get to my age, am I going to be made redundant by some big company? I see that as a risk. I might be made redundant. So
yeah.
having my own business, it's kind of takes that out of the equation, really. So
Yeah.
I
You
hope
have,
that answers your question, Matt.
absolutely, yes. I mean, there's no really just your feedback, I guess, on this question, because I'm
Mm.
always curious to hear what would you tell your younger self. I guess it's always a good advice, and then because it's coming from the heart, it comes based on your experience already. So I think it's a great valuable advice for us all.
Yeah.
Matt, it's been a great conversation. I feel very inspired, and I look forward to the editing because I'll be able to rewatch it and listen to it again. Final question for you today. What are you excited about the most? It can be business related, doesn't have to be in 2026. So we're just getting started, and it already
Okay.
feels like in few weeks, but it's only a week into 2026 when we
Well,
record it.
I've got to be honest. I'm going to be totally truthful about it. I know this sounds bad, but actually, this loop suite, right, feels like when I was at the beginning of that COVID period,
Mm,
when everything's to play for, when we could do something. This could go, I think, quite big, because I really like it. So I've got this like feeling that it could be like that. So that's genuinely from my heart. That's what I feel. But my other passion is traveling. So I love to travel. My wife has had enough of traveling. She's like, no more. Yeah, I love to go and see different places and so forth. So 2026, hopefully traveling, but also hopefully seeing LoopSuite do what it's
Yeah.
meant to do, really. So yeah.
And actually, I lied. I have one more follow up question regarding the Loop Suite. So this is just for the listeners so they know, and we'll obviously leave all the links and URLs in the description. Is this for businesses, business owners of any size, in only in Europe or only in the UK, or can someone from the US also
Yeah,
freely access
yeah.
it?
It is. It is business to business in that
Okay.
lead generation is going to be business to business, and it is a worldwide product. So you'll see your leads could well go to obviously companies within your area, let's say, or nationwide. You can pick local, national, 50
Hmm.
miles, whatever. So you've got your business to business part of it, which is your lead generation. But also, like my gardener was here, and I was telling him a few weeks ago about this product, and he'd only got Facebook, so he hadn't got a website. He got a Facebook page, and he said, "Right, yeah, I got a lot of business from my Facebook page." So I said to Carl, my co-founder, I said, "This is a situation we can't really help him because he can't, even with a website, he can't email. Well, he could email other businesses, but he
Hmm.
can't email,
People.
Joe blogs. Exactly, that's it. So that's where the idea, one of the reasons why Loop Social works, because he can connect his Facebook account to Loop Social every day. It will post something for him, while he's busy cutting the lawns and so forth. He doesn't have to think, what am I going to write today? So B2C is also available as part of the Loop Reach and Loop Social, not
Yeah.
the Loop Gen. So yeah, business to business, all three packages as part of Loop Suite, or B2C as part of Loop Social or Loop Reach Reader. But yeah,
And if Facebook is working for him, he might as well just build his own list with the post that he's putting out there through LoopSuite. He can build his own newsletter, and that's how he can generate business as well. Emailing his list once a week, telling about the promos or some projects that they have done. I mean, some landscapers that I know. I actually had one landscaper on a podcast who's been doing this for 50 years in nice areas of Los Angeles and Beverly
yeah,
Hills and all those areas. And he takes great pride in the projects that they do because
sure.
houses there and the gardening and landscaping there is art, and he treats
Yeah,
it as art. So there are
yeah.
definitely artists out there, and he could post about it as well
Well,
in
that's the
his
thing.
newsletter. So
That's the
yeah,
thing,
that
Matt.
makes sense.
With the social side, it'll post. But if anyone replies, have you got a brochure, let's say, if you
Mm,
have a brochure online on Loop Social, or it'll just send one out.
there we
It
go.
replies to comments automatically.
That's
You can
crazy.
generate your own brochure within Loop Suite or a video. you know, you can do all that in just a few clicks. So I think the point is it's massively time saving. That's the whole thing. No one
Absolutely.
wants to go and find leads and, let's say, do all the social side. If you're not comfortable doing all that, then it does it all for you. And as I mentioned, Google Ads, it's quite complicated. I used it like many, many years ago, and I've used it again now. It's changed a bit, but it's still complicated.
It
So
is.
the Loop Reach does that for you. So it's a comprehensive product, and I'm looking forward to somebody maybe in the US being our first customer. You never know. We're waiting for somebody to try it. It's free for 30 days, as I say, and if you try it and you subscribe, I will send you a personal T-shirt that I've got to get printed with a big thank you. Maybe a box of chocolates. How about that?
There we go. I love that offer. We'll make sure to do that. And you know what? Next time we get together, we should do like a quick demo of it. We
Yeah,
can always share a screen
yeah,
and do a
yeah,
demo and show people how it what maybe if you already get a few users in the
yeah,
United States and over in Europe, to some case studies. Maybe we can break them down and do like a demo video for people, because I feel like this is becoming very important again to be visible online. I think social media, when social media was at its prime for the first time, like Facebook, those major ones, Instagram, what you could post and you would get leads. Then it kind of died out because of the ads. If you didn't pay for
Mm,
clicks if you didn't pay for impressions, or if you didn't run ads or hire someone to run ads, because it wasn't as easy as it is now, which is still difficult if you're not techie.
yeah,
But I feel like now all the social media platforms realize that they have social in their name in the first
mm,
place, actually.
mm,
So they need to be social and not only pay per pay to get, I guess we can say. So content being online, being visible, having that content is absolutely crucial for any size of a business. So I think
mm.
LoopSuite is it's a good timing for you guys.
As I say, I'm amazed every time Carl comes up with something. I'm like, really? He's doing that? That's
I
really,
gotta
really
meet
good.
Carl now.
Huh? You're gonna have
We have
to
to bring
interview
on
Carl. That's it.
we have bring Carl on, and we do a demo call with Carl and you, and
Yeah,
we'll have
yeah,
a rip of some websites.
definitely. Thank you.
Matt, thank you so much for your time. Actually, your evening time, right? We're
Yeah,
9 hours
that's it. It's
ahead.
just coming up to 5 p.m.
There you go. I'm just starting my day. You're wrapping up your day. I'm looking forward to seeing where LoopSuite is going, or it's going to be at the end of this year. And then later
Yeah,
on, I think you're going to hit a big growth
yeah.
spike there. And I'm wishing you all the best, all the success in 26, continued success, I should say, in 2026. And it's absolute honor to have you on the podcast.
Well, thank you, Matt, for your time, and I'm sure everyone that watches this our conversation is going to go, Loot Sweet, got to get on it, got to try it. So I'll be thanking you, Matt, in 12 months' time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Cheers again. Thank you.